Hey, if you want to discover why planning is actually really freaking stupid, stick around and watch today's video through until the very end, as I'm about to share with you why I believe planning is one of the most overrated things to focus on in your business. As always, if this is your first video, my name is Misha Wilson, and over the course of the last few years, I've now done over $40 million in total sales online. So everything I'm going to be sharing with you here today in this video is out of actual applied knowledge and not just theoretical. Well, this kind of might sort of work this way. If you get value, as always, please let me know in the comments section below what your biggest takeaway is. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button below if you get value. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Welcome to the Misha Wilson Show, where we show you how to create massive success online so you can enjoy the lifestyle of your wildest dreams.
All right, so what I want to talk about here today is why I personally believe planning to be incredibly stupid, especially in the startup phase of entrepreneurship. All right, this is going to be more for the startup phase entrepreneur and probably, to be honest, more specific to our actual marketplace. And just for context, the reason I say this is because over the last 6 or 7 years now, we have now coached well over 100,000 people. We've had well over 150,000 people actually purchase our products. And then from there, I've coached tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of people between our group coaching calls, our in-person masterminds, our workshops, our events, and everything in between. And so I have been able to see quite literally, a ton of people and how a ton of people operate in our specific industry and what holds them back. All right. And what I want to talk about here is the thing that I see holds so many people back that is kind of sold to you as a solution, sold to you as a positive, but which unfortunately, at least specifically for our industry, ends up being much, much, much more of a negative. And that is, of course, planning. All right. So I can't tell you how many people we have worked with over the course of the years that have planned. And then instead of launching, they've planned a little bit more. And then instead of launching the next thing they planned, they've decided to pivot and plan the next thing. And they plan their next course launch or their next affiliate program launch. And then after planning that thing, they decide this isn't quite right, for me, for this reason or another. And then they end up planning for the next thing. And what tends to happen is that instead of just telling themselves to take freaking action, instead of just going, instead of just doing something to put themselves out there, they focus on the planning and they allow themselves to focus on the planning because the planning allows them to feel like they're doing something, to feel like they're being productive, to feel like they're executing, to feel like they're taking the action steps that they should take in order to change their life. While the truth of the matter is, they're just fucking planning something that's never going to actually happen, right? And so, on the complete total opposite end of the spectrum, I'm not necessarily saying, especially as an established business owner, I wouldn't recommend this. But in my own personal journey, I will tell you, and the entire team will tell you, my chief operating officer at one point quit because of this. And still to this day, sometimes some of the people in my team are driven nuts by this. But especially when I was first getting started, from that 0 to 6 figures to a million to, 6, 7, 8 million a year even. Now, again, we're kind of a little bit more structured and more organized, but all I fucking did was execute. All I did was take action. All I did was look at the thing that might drive some sales and immediately did it, right? There was zero need to think about, all right, should I plan on doing this next week or should I just do it? Everything that I saw as a potential opportunity to grow the business, to increase revenue, to get us to the next level, that of course, was honest and ethical and all that stuff. Everything I saw that could help us, all I did was execute. And in executing, yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I failed. Yes, I screwed up. I made more mistakes than I actually, succeeded. But in doing so much, in taking so much action, in just getting out there and fucking doing everything that I could possibly do, invariably what happened is 3, 4, 5, 6 of the things that I tried did really freaking well. And then what I was able to do is I was able to look at, all right, these things did really well. How can I do more of these and less of these? Then I got to a point where it's actually, all right, how can I put some structure in place? And how can I plan to have structure in place around these things that are doing really well, so we can have a system to produce results with these things that are doing really well for us? And that's when we became more organized, we became more planned, and we became, again, a little bit more structured as a company. I can tell you literally, I remember an event, and we had a few hundred people at the event. I want to say around 300 people or so. And we didn't even have the next event booked yet, right? We were thinking about doing an event later on that year. And we were kind of brainstorming at the event itself. Well, should we sell anything? We had one offer we were going to sell. Should we sell anything else? And I said, well, look, we should do an event later on this year too. And so let me sell the damn thing, right? And so before we even had the next event booked, before we had the hotel chosen, before we had any of it, I got up on stage and I pitched the entire room and said, hey, if you want to come to our next event, we don't have the hotel, we don't have everything booked out, we don't have everything scheduled yet, but if you buy now, you'll get a massive discount because you're purchasing before we know all the details. And I ended up selling about 80% of the room at about, I think, $197 a ticket. Sold 80% of 300 people into the next event before we even had that event planned. And again, just based on saying, all right, this thing can help us grow the company. Let's do this thing right now. And as long as it's honest, ethical, within integrity, let's execute. Let's not spend a month or a year planning the damn thing. Let's just do it. And that allowed me to get into momentum. And then once I got into momentum, all I did was more of that and less of all the other stuff that wasn't actually working. All right. What I find usually, and there's every now and then there's a case where this isn't true. So you might be that one person where this isn't true. But what I find usually is that when someone is excessively planning, it's not because they don't have a good enough plan. It's because they have something internally keeping them from executing on the thing that they know they should be executing on. All right. And so it's essentially a way for them to avoid doing the thing that they know they need to do, but still do something that allows them to feel like they're doing something to allow them to get to their goals, while ultimately deep down, they don't do the thing that gets them out of their comfort zone. All right. Me selling the next event before we had anything booked, way out of my comfort zone. Me doing the first event ever, way out of my comfort zone. Me launching my own programs, we hadn't done it yet, way out of my comfort zone. But I had to take action. I had to execute on those things out of my comfort zone. And for me personally, I had to do them as quickly as humanly possible, because I find myself personally, and I think a lot of people are like this, if you have something out of your comfort zone and you don't just do it, that's what ultimately leads you through the process of, instead of just doing it, constantly finding a way to avoid doing the thing and never actually getting to a point where you execute to begin with. All right. So long story short, look, if you're an established business owner, if you have a 6-figure business, if you have a 7-figure business, if you have a team, if you have a staff, if your staff has critical drivers and KPIs they need to hit, if you have different divisions, yes, you got a plan, right? Of course, there's going to be the anomaly when it comes to the people getting started who are actually planning the right way and planning in a way that's effective. But most all the time, what I have found, specifically in our industry, is that when someone just focuses on planning, they're not actually planning. They're using planning as an excuse to not do the thing that they know they need to do. And ultimately, the planning in of itself is keeping them from executing and breaking through in their business. So my advice and encouragement to you would be, whatever that thing is you know you need to be doing, do it right freaking now. Don't do it next week. Don't do it a month from now. Don't do it after the holidays. Do it right now. Execute right now. Start the process of executing right now. And then once you start that process, never stop. I hope you got a ton of value out of today's video. If you did, please let me know in the comments section below what your biggest takeaway was. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button to get notified when I do more videos just like this. Till next time, over and out.